Read it again. Stop!
Who was the ruling pharaoh that the Bible neglects to identify when Abraham and Sarah reached Egypt? His name was Amenemhet I, and he ruled Egypt from 1991 BC to 1962 BC. The name Amenemhet means Amen is the head. Besides Pharaoh Amenemhet and biblical Abraham living in the same place at the same time, in 1818, Antonio Lobolo made a revolutionary discovery that identified the biblical Abraham as an Egyptian pharaoh. During Lobolo's excavations in the Egyptian Valley of the Kings, he exhumed 11 Egyptian mummies along with rolls of papyri inscribed with hieroglyphic writings and drawings. One of those drawings was interpreted by Mormon Joseph Smith and his Egyptologists as Abraham sitting on the pharaoh's throne. Abraham's name was also deciphered on a roll of papyrus.
So, there you have it. We just found our two targets for today's subject. Joseph Smith is said to have been the one who interpreted the findings to be Abraham. And he is also said to have deciphered Abraham's name on the rolls of the papyri. Now, before we begin, it must be made known that what I'm about to present to you is an age-old argument. Age-old. I mean, it's about as old as the 1960s video you just saw the R.A.M put up. It's been refuted before, probably not on YouTube though, until now. One tip for the R.A.M, next time you want to try and find some hard evidence to crush the validity of the Bible, you know, mainly the Old Testament, I guess, you may want to stay away from the age-old stuff. It should be a big hint that if it's old, it's probably been refuted already. It's like trying to prove your Atari system can keep up with my PS3, even though I ain't got one, but y'all know what I'm saying though. Truth be told, I could refute their claim to Joseph, Moses, and the rest of the bunch, claiming that they're all pharaohs or Egyptian myths, etc. But I'm only going to concentrate on Abraham because they posted their video as a response to my series on Abraham. At least part of the series, at least that video was on Abraham. So with that, let's begin. Oh yeah, I'm sorry for the sirens, y'all. I do live in the hood, so anyway. Okay, so the following is read from the Christian Apologetics and Research Ministries website concerning the subject, the Book of Abraham, Papyri, and Joseph Smith. There are many proofs that Joseph Smith was a false prophet, but Mormons typically will not accept them. From biblical evidence that contradicts Mormon theology to the contradictions within its own history and doctrine, proofs abound. But Mormons, completely dedicated to their religion and their testimony, cannot and will not see the evidence. They rely not on biblical evidence, not on historical evidence, but rather trust a testimony, quote unquote, that Mormonism is the restored church and Joseph Smith is its true prophet. If it can be proven that Joseph Smith was a false prophet, then Mormonism is a false religion. It just so happens that there is such a proof. Alright, so let's get down with it. And also, I'm going to actually need some help from my man tazadaqyah because I am going to be reading a lot, and I know y'all like to encourage everybody, so I'm going to need some help along this one. You with me, Taz?
Let's start to look at it.
Okay, good. The Book of Abraham. Joseph Smith, being the Lord's chosen instrument, became the prophet of the Mormon church, and he held the office of seer. A seer, according to the Book of Mormon in Mosiah chapter 8 verse 13, can translate records that are untranslatable. Hence, Joseph Smith was able to translate the golden plates into the Book of Mormon. But his abilities did not stop there.
Read on.
In July of 1835, an Irishman named Michael Chandler brought an exhibit of 4 Egyptian mummies and papyri to Kirkland, Ohio. That was a home of the Mormons, basically. At least one of them. The papyri contained Egyptian hieroglyphs. In 1835, hieroglyphics were unreadable.
Stop! Read it again!
I said in 1835, hieroglyphics were unreadable.
Stop! Now that's the problem!
I know, that's what I said too. I was like, what? Really? As prophet and seer of the church, Joseph Smith was given permission to look at the papyrus scrolls in the exhibit and, to everyone's shock, revealed that, quote, one of the rolls contained the writings of Abraham and other writings of Joseph and of Egypt, etc. The church bought the exhibit. They basically bought it for $2,400. Then Joseph finished a translation of the book of Abraham sometime later. But the book of Joseph was never translated. The papyri was lost soon afterwards and thought to have been destroyed in a fire in Chicago in 1871. There was therefore no way to validate Joseph's translation. If the papyri were to be rediscovered and translated, it would either prove or disprove the abilities of Joseph as a prophet of God. After all, he was supposed to be a prophet and have these abilities of a seer, as the Book of Mormon and the Book of Abraham supposedly prove.
Read on.
In October of 1880, the Pearl of Great Price, a collection of writings which contained the Book of Abraham, was recognized as scripture by the Mormon Church. The papyri found. To everyone's surprise, in 1966, the papyri were rediscovered in one of the vault rooms of New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. The Deseret News of Salt Lake City on November 27, 1967, acknowledged the rediscovery of the papyri. On the back of the papyri were, quote, drawings of a temple and maps of the Kirkland, Ohio area. There could be no doubt that this was the original document from which Joseph Smith translated the Book of Abraham. With the papyri rediscovered and Egyptian hieroglyphics decipherable since the late 1800s, it would then be an easy task of translating the papyri and proving once and for all that Joseph Smith was a prophet with the gift of seer, as he and the Mormon Church have claimed. This will prove the truth of the Book of Mormon and the Book of Abraham, which will vindicate Joseph Smith as a true prophet of God. So, what do the experts say?
Read on.
Joseph Smith copied 3 drawings from the Egyptian scrolls, labeled them facsimile number 1, number 2, and number 3. We're about to break them down in a second. Give me a minute. And incorporated them into the Book of Abraham with explanations of what they were. Egyptologists have viewed the drawings and found Joseph Smith's interpretation of them to be wrong.
What?
But the Mormons, in defense of the sacred book, maintained that the facsimiles alone were not sufficient to prove that Joseph Smith was erring in his translating abilities. With the discovery of the papyri, not only were there the same drawings in the scrolls, but also was the text from which Joseph Smith made his translation. It was now possible to absolutely determine the accuracy of Smith's translating abilities.
Now that's not going to go without some explaining. Because you got people that's upset. Now you pick up from where I left off. Oh, why people is upset.